Today on the Caucus, Michael Shear on public and private pronouncements as debt negotiations continue. Also, Nicholas Confessore reports on President Obama's large fundraising haul, $86 million.
The interesting thing right now is that the difference between the public pronouncements and the negotiations in private seems to be shifting. A week ago, it seemed like the negotiations underway behind the scenes were maybe different and they were closer together than the public pronouncements. Now, it seems like that's all fallen apart and that the very harsh statements you're hearing from all of the different sides more closely matches the rhetoric that's going on in these daily negotiating sessions with the White House, which are said to be quite testy. This is not the first time that these folks are kind of going through this process. The president and Mr. Boehner and his lieutenants all kind of initially had a kind of trial by fire in the lame duck session of Congress at the end of last year. They negotiated a START treaty. They negotiated over this question of whether or not the Bush-era tax cuts should expire. The president gave in on that. Mr. Boehner gave in on the question of extensions of unemployment benefits. And so there is a history of President Obama and this Republican House finding a way to compromise. What seemed to be happening a week ago was that it looked like that process was repeating itself. Now it seems like it's not. We seem to have stalemate. At this point, there's a couple of different options, it looks like, for how these folks might move forward. The president continues to say that he's willing to have some sort of a grander bargain that would cut more, like in the neighborhood of $4 trillion. The Republicans say, well, that's too much, we're not willing to do that. There's those two options, a big plan or a scaled back plan. Neither of those, though, look like it has much support in the House. There's a third option out there. The Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, has thrown out this idea that perhaps if there isn't a deal to be reached, that the way to go is to simply say, look, let the president go ahead and raise the debt ceiling. But essentially, it would be handing off the responsibility, but also the accountability for doing it to the president, and then come back at these questions of debt reduction and deficit reduction and reform of entitlement programs at a different time, essentially decouple those issues. That is being interpreted in a lot of quarters as a recognition by the Republican leader that the possibility of a default, the possibility of a failure to raise the debt ceiling is getting closer, and that if that were to happen, the Republican Party might be more seen as more to blame, and so he's looking for a way out. It remains to be seen exactly which path the negotiators take, and it'll be kind of nail-biting time soon enough.
Globally, we raised more than $86 million, more than $47 million for Obama for America, and more than $38 million for the DNC.
So today, the president's campaign announced that they raised a total of $86 million in combination for the president's re-election campaign and for the Democratic National Committee. It's a large number. It's a lot more than any of the Republican candidates have raised, and it's basically them putting down a marker. He really raised a lot more than anyone currently running for president on the Republican side. And more importantly, he's put a lot of money into the DNC. He's been doing joint fundraising, asking his top donors to give over $30,000 apiece at a clip. And that has allowed him to quickly and early fill the coffers of the party committee so that they can start building a national political machinery and get out the vote operation that will pay dividends in kind of over a year. Well, it's hard to do an exact apples-to-apples comparison until we actually see the filing from the president. It's pretty clear that if he's raising over $80 million at this stage in the game, he's well ahead of the entire Republican field. The leading contender on the Republican side in terms of fundraising is Mitt Romney. He's only raised about $18 million in the same period in this quarter. And it's pretty good. It's a lot better than any of his competitors for the Republican nomination, all of whom are under $5 million. But it's not enough to beat a president who can raise this much money over and over again every quarter if he's able to keep that pace up.